Good day to you wherever you are, and once again welcome you to today's lesson. And today we have history. We're going to continue from where we ended the other time. Okay, so let's quickly look at our strand and our sub-strand regarding today's lesson. Okay, so our strand for today is journey to independence, and our sub-strand is formation of political parties. So before we delve into our objectives, what we are going to achieve by the end of today's lesson, let's quickly do a brief recap or go through what we learned previously. So as you can see on the screen, in our previous lesson we discussed political parties. Precisely, we looked at the definition of political parties, and we as well looked at the formation of the U.G.C.C. being the first political party in the Gold Coast, now Ghana. And then we as well identified the founding members of the political party, that is U.G.C.C. So we said a political party is an organization formed by a group of people who share the same political ideas with the aim of what? Winning political power. And we looked at the U.G.C.C. We said the U.G.C.C. was actually formed on 4th August 1947 at Saltpond in the central region of Ghana. And then we moved on to the purpose of which it was formed. Okay, it was formed basically to eradicate the injustices of the British. Okay, initially we were under the rulership or the leadership of the British, under the auspices of the British. So due to their cruel and their waywardness towards our forefathers, they fought deeply for us. So then we moved on to the founding members. See, the big six actually were one of the big six were also part of the founding members. Apart from them, we have John Grant, we have John Chiboy, and the others. Okay, so let's quickly look at our objectives regarding today's lesson. Alright, so let's look at our objectives based on the lesson. By the end of today's lesson, you will be able to 1. Identify the aims and objectives of the United Gold Coast Convention, that is the U.G.C.C. 2. Discuss the achievements of the U.G.C.C. And then the third one is discuss the failures of the U.G.C.C. So we are going to look at our keywords briefly, and then we'll take the objectives one after the other. Okay, so these are the keywords that we have for today. Okay, so the keywords are publication, urban, constitution, council, legislative. Let's go through the words one more time, and this time around I would like you to say the words after me. Okay, publication, urban, constitution, council, legislative. Good. Now let's quickly move on to our first objective, that is the aims and the objectives, or the aims and the objectives of the U.G.C.C. The aims and the objectives of the United Gold Coast Convention. Okay, then let's look at the aims and objectives of the United Gold Coast Convention, that is U.G.C.C. The first aim or objective that we can talk about is to take over the ruling of the country from the hands of the British through a gradual process. Now, our forefathers really fought for the independence of our nation, Ghana. They actually did that through gradual process. It wasn't an easy thing for them or an easy task for them, but they were able to fight hard for our nation Ghana to gain independence. Okay, because initially we were under the rulership or leadership of the British, and due to the injustices and other kind of cruel acts of the British, they came together, the founding members of the U.G.C.C. came together to fight hard so that they can help our nation gain independence. And through that gradual process, they were able to fight hard and were able to gain independence for our nation Ghana. And the second point is to oppose the 1946 Alan Burns Constitution because of its over-reliance on chiefs. You know, the Alan Burns Constitution really relied or depended on the chiefs. You know, the Constitution, when we talk about the legislative aspect, okay, when we talk about the legislative actually is a group of people. You know, the legislative actually makes what law. They make law, or in other words, they make what laws. So the Alan Burns Legislative Council consists of 30 members. You know, 6 were actually officials, okay, and then the 24 were unofficials, and then the 6 of them were elected by the governor. And out of the 24 unofficial members, majority of them were chiefs. So the founding members of the U.G.C.C. opposed, or they actually spoke against that, because the chiefs then were not actually having that, let me say, the rulership power to rule or to deliberate on political issues. So they really opposed that. So we have about 13 chiefs who were elected, okay, and then I think 4 of them were educated elites, and then other 6 unofficials were they were Europeans, okay, but majority of them were chiefs. So the U.G.C.C. actually opposed the 1946 Alan Burns Constitution because of its over-reliance on chiefs. They really depended on chiefs. So now let's look at the other aims and objectives. Okay, so the third point or aim that we want to talk about is to ensure the representatives in the Legislative Council. I believe I explained the Legislative Council. The legislature actually makes what law. Okay, so those under the Legislative Council, they make law or laws. And so to ensure that the representatives in the Legislative Council are elected for their competence only. So before the Legislative Council, or the group of people who fall under the Legislative Council, or the people who make laws and order, they must be competent people who are skillful, people that can be depended upon, okay, people that are very knowledgeable when it comes to the legislature aspect, or those who can make law. Now the fourth point is to achieve constitutional progress for the Gold Coast through legal means. Okay, the constitutional, I believe you know what constitution is a set of rules that govern a country. Okay, a set of rules that governs a country. So one of the aims of the U.G.C.C. is to achieve constitutional progress for the Gold Coast through legal means, not illegal, but legal means, going the right way to achieve the constitutional progress. Now let's then move on to the our next objective. Okay, let's look at our next objective, that is achievements of the U.G.C.C. What are some of the things that they achieved after bringing out their aims and objectives? So let's look at the achievements of the U.G.C.C. Now, the first one is the U.G.C.C. provided forum for initial organization of the elites. Okay, or let me say those who are intellectually inclined when it comes to the education aspect or monetary aspect, they are inclined or they are doing well in that aspect. Now, so the U.G.C.C provided a forum for the initial organization of the educated elites or the educated people to oppose British colonial rule. So they actually provided a forum or the platform for the educated elites in order to oppose the British colonial government or the colonial rule. And the second point is that they published a newspaper known as the Talking Drum. Now, through the efforts of the U.G.C.C, a newspaper known as the Talking Drum was published to help inform people about what was happening in the country. So the main purpose of the publication of the newspaper was to alert people or to inform people about what was happening in the country, be it the political, economical, or any aspect regarding the country. Okay. Now the third point is that they used peaceful approach to demand constitutional and political changes. So the U.G.C.C actually used this approach to demand constitutional and political changes from the British colonial government. The British colonial government. Now let's look at our next point. The next point. Okay, so our next point, that is the U.G.C.C recommended the new name Ghana for the Gold Coast. Now I believe you know then Ghana was Gold Coast and Gold Coast now Ghana. So the leadership of the U.G.C.C, particularly J.B. Dankwa or Joseph Bachi Dankwa, was the first to recommend the name or the new name Ghana for the Gold Coast at independence. Okay, now let's go at the fifth achievement, that is they invited Dr. Kwame Nkrumah to the Gold Coast to intensify the fight for independence. So they were able to do that. Now it was through the efforts of U.G.C.C that Dr. Kwame Nkrumah was invited to the Gold Coast to intensify the fight for independence. You know, actually he was invited over by Dr. Dr. Ako Ajay, due to Dr. Kwame Nkrumah's political ambitions and organizational abilities that he has when he was in London. So these are the objectives the achievements of the U.G.C.C. Now let's look at the failures of the U.G.C.C. Let's then discuss the failures of the U.G.C.C. Okay then, so let's look at the failures of the U.G.C.C. Some of their weaknesses that they couldn't work on. Okay. Now the first one is most of the leading members belonged to the upper class. Okay, they belong to the educated elites, those who are intellectually inclined, those who are economically inclined, who have enough. Okay, when it comes to money aspects or resources. So the educated people saw themselves as being above the ordinary people and therefore could not integrate themselves with the youth and the masses. So they were too proud, they were too, so due to those that very intention that they have, that they are educated or they are well in certain things more than ordinary people, they really found it difficult to integrate themselves or to mingle with the youth and the masses. Now the second point is that the U.G.C.C was urban based and it failed to open branches in the rural areas. I believe you understand the rural areas. The rural areas, we're talking about the villages, okay? The villages. So, since the greater portion of the Gold Coasters, okay, or the people of Gold Coast, was in the rural areas, the party's failure to open branches there contributed to its defeat in the 1951 general elections. So, because their mindsets or their intention or the greater portion of their rulership was based on the educated elites or the educated people, they really failed during the general elections in 1951 because they didn't go to the rural areas to perhaps do their campaigns or any other stuff to win the hearts of the people. Okay, so now let's move on to our next point. Okay, so let's get the third point, that is, there was no defined ideology program for the party. So because of that, it became weak as a party with the emergence of the Dynamic Convention People's Party, that is CPP, actually formed or funded by Dr. Kwame Nkrumah. So now let's go at our fourth point. The leadership of the party were part-time politicians, okay, and the party lacked the organizational ability of Dr. Kwame Nkrumah, or let me say the political ambitions of Dr. Kwame Nkrumah, the way Dr. Kwame Nkrumah actually organized certain things when it comes to politics. They actually lacked that, and therefore Dr. Kwame Nkrumah also broke away, and then he formed the CPP. So he was the founder of the CPP. So due to that, during the 1951 general elections, CPP won. And so on this note, we've come to the end of the lesson. So let's quickly go through what we have learned concerning today's lesson. Okay, so let's wrap up with our lesson. So as you can see on the screen, we've been able to achieve our objectives. The first one is the aims and objectives of the U.G.C.C, followed by the achievements of the U.G.C.C, and the third one is failures of the U.G.C.C. So we have come to the end of today's lesson, and in our subsequent lesson we'll be talking about the CPP. When Dr. Kwame Nkrumah broke away, he left U.G.C.C. U.G.C.C couldn't survive, so he then went to form his own political party, that is on CPP. So our next lesson will be based on CPP. Okay, so on this note, I wish you all the very best of luck. Till I come your way again, it is still your facilitator, Wilson. Goodbye.